Okay, let's talk writing academic. Okay, writing academic is a bit of a challenge because it's thinking a bit different about the way you write your essay. Okay, so one thing that you always do when you write academic is you write in third person. So you always write in the third person. So you don't write like I. You don't use like I, we, or it's like we're writing like according to the writer or the writer says, or you go from normally you quote your reference. So John Smith 2010 page 7 says that counseling is an awesome profession. So you always write in that sort of style. But we'll go on a bit of a journey as we go on and just talk a bit about writing academic. This is not to just get you to start writing academic. It's just a bit of a background on how to do it for you if you're interested in doing it, and to practice so long. If you feel like I want to go to uni, just to start doing your, especially I would like it if you do your research projects in a academic style. Okay, because I do find a lot of students handing their research, and the idea about a research document is that you actually read wider. Okay, so I'm not that happy when I get a research document just out of the learner guide, because that's not research, because we've already provided you the information, it's already there. The best way to do a good academic writing is to actually go and research somewhere else, read wider. Obviously, it's the learner guide is our document, which we provide you, so it's good that our document does feature somewhere, even if it's just one line. We use the so even at uni, if there are prescribed books, even if you just use 1 or 2 lines from the prescribed book to show the lecturer that you actually read the material that they actually supply, but the idea is to go further. There are different guidelines for the amount of references. I don't know what's the guideline for bachelor, but the guideline for masters is for every 100 words 1 reference. So if you write a 3,000 word word essay, that'll be 30 references. Okay, so that's what we talk about reading further. But I'm happy with normally about 2 or 3 2 or 3, which doesn't include your learner guide. So get 2 or 3 other references, except Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not a good reference, because everyone can add to Wikipedia. So I can go and I can change stuff to Wikipedia or add stuff to Wikipedia. So it's not always verified. But the nice thing about Wikipedia is, and don't chuck Wikipedia out of the window, is we can use Wikipedia. On the bottom of where it explains it, there's quite a few references. So you can actually read up on those references, and it can help you to get references. So there's quite a few things. So I've given you a bit of a document on how to write academic. I also have an APA referencing style guide, which I'll give to you afterwards. And then some of the issues we're going to talk about, I've got copies of uni documents, which just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Right, so it's an interesting journey. So I'm trying to not make this boring, because this is sort of a boring subject or a boring topic, because writing academic is not the most exciting thing we can talk about. Yeah, but it's like it's just quickly to try and get you to sort of give you, and my idea is that to try and motivate you to go to uni after this. To try and prepare you. I've got a few students who already went to uni, and one of our students went to Bond, which I'm quite excited about, and she got 8 references, and she actually got a special award for being an awesome student at Bond. So that is my goal. We've got a special arrangement with CHC for counseling, so I'm just trying to get you to see a bit of a different world and see that it's not so impossible right? Because sometimes we see uni as totally impossible, but if you can do a diploma, then you can go into uni. And it's not impossible. So that's what I'm trying to help you with. So, all right. Any questions before we go on this journey?
I was just going to say, with the referencing, did you say when you said not Wikipedia?
Yeah.
I remember hearing you say that a lot of the documents, when it's PDFs, they're pretty good ones to use.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But just when you do research, and this is something I've learned from one of my lecturers at when I'm doing the ministry at the Ministry College of City Point. I'm also doing the Masters in Ministry Leadership, and that guy taught me something interesting. Is when you do a search on a document. Let's say you take let's say CBT. So if you want articles on CBT, so you say art CBT PDF free download, and then the documents will be PDFs. So PDFs would normally be more stuff like theses and stuff. So it's more academic. So it's easier. So since I'm doing that, my references and stuff have actually become much easier to do, because you type in PDF. Make sure you type in free download, because some of the PDFs is like they give you 2 sentences. You have to register, and then you pay X amount of money to download the stuff.
Or go and buy it from Google.
So I would say always make sure that you use the free one. And also, to make it easy for you, is when you download a document, look that there is an author, because lots of documents don't have an author. So let's say it will say the Counselling Association, and there's an article, but there's no author. You can still use it, but it's easier to download a document that says it was written by Mary Smith, and use Mary Smith as so. And there are heaps and heaps of documents. So try and get the ones that will make it easier for you to reference. Okay, so let's start with writing academic. First of all, about your introduction. Background information to provide the context for your topic. So when you start your introduction, make sure that your introduction is sort of a bit of an idea, why do I have to read your document? Okay, so it's sort of almost a summary of what is coming. Yeah. So it's like background information to provide the context. So it's the context. So the best way to write your introduction is to write your introduction at the end. So don't start your document with your introduction, end your document writing your introduction. So once you've done all your information, you've got your information, you've written your body of your work, then you have already great background, and then you can go back and then you write your introduction. So I normally write my introduction last, because that will give me, because I've already got the information what is in my body of work, and then and your introduction should tell you what is coming. So I'm not going to read everything here, because you all can read. And for people who's watching this and doesn't have the notes and stuff like that, you're welcome to ask me, and I'll email them, or mail them if we can't post them like the previous one was too big. But it is important that your introduction tell us what it's about.
Would that be history a bit too?
Yeah, it talks about a bit of a history, a bit of a information about what is coming. I would normally in my introduction I'll maybe put in a bit of a history too, but not much. I might rather have a whole.
But maybe just a paragraph.
I would rather have a paragraph following with the history. So I've got a document which I'll give to you later. It's it's an essay I wrote. It's not one of my greatest works. I got a B+ for the thing. But the topic of the essay was I chose gender, and I specifically focused on homosexuality in the gender area, and I had a heap of history relating to homosexuality. So that's an essay I'll give to you later, which you can just see about, maybe look into the context of also how the academic writing happens.
An example of how it should be done.
That's an example of how to, but as I say, it's not an A+ work, it's a B+ work. So I've missed some stuff, and I normally fail at keeping everything academic. Sometimes I mess up the references by sometimes forgetting to make some stuff in italics or stuff like that, and then it's like, so like especially uni is quite strict. Bachelor is not as strict as when you go up and up, that your academic referencing be actually absolutely up to standard. So yeah. So please note, the structure of an introduction may vary depending on the assignment. Avoid predictable formula-forming introductions that do not engage the reader or provide an interesting direction for writing. Right, so sort of, you don't want your lecturer to read the introduction and sort of feel like, oh, this is going to be so boring. Because then they can already in their mind make up a bit of it, like, oh, this is definitely not going to be an A, or this is definitely not going to be a B. Right, so where on diploma level we talk about successful, unsuccessful, but when we move higher we have different levels. So let me just see what, just for example, the levels are, what you have is outstanding, high quality, commendable, satisfactory and unsatisfactory. So that are the levels. And unsatisfactory is a 40%. So it just gives you an idea where you go with that. But your introduction should be something that's catchy, and that's why I normally say it's a good idea to write your introduction last, because after you've done the whole document, you've done everything already, you know what you are writing about, then you write your introduction. Okay, body paragraphs, topic, sentence or statement, number of citations and examples to read the key ideas. So what you do is make sure that one idea per paragraph. One idea per paragraph. So don't write about Freud, Jung and Rogers in one paragraph. Okay? Write about Freud did this is the work that Freud does, and then, but interesting, your paragraphs need to be linked.
Yeah, I was going to say, how can you?
Yeah, so linked. So then maybe your last sentence will be, but Jung continued this work by doing the following, and then you write a whole paragraph on Jung,
right.
And then you can say, but Carl Rogers took the work that Jung and Freud did, and he did the following, and then so each paragraph is one idea per paragraph, but the paragraphs has to be linked. So you have to have sort of a linking sentence between your paragraphs. Sometimes it's not possible, but it's sort of an art. You need to work on that to do that linking thing. So if you can't do it now with your research, don't stress about it. I'm not gonna freak out. But when you get to a uni level, this is sort of stuff that they're looking at. When I marked assessments at uni, it's like those are the sort of technical. That the writing becomes quite technical when we get to uni level. Okay, so it talks about linking sentences. A sentence is included which connects the key idea to this paragraph to the key idea to the next paragraph. So there must be some sort of a link. So your paragraphs don't like hang all by themselves. It's even if you're reading a book and you read a book and there's no links, like you've got this paragraph and the next paragraph starts with something totally different, you feel a bit confused while you're reading the story. See it in that way too, that there must be some sort of link. Why do I have to read? What's the purpose of this paragraph? Oh, it's linked to the other paragraph because that was Freud, and Freud talking about the it, and then this guy comes, he talks about the ego or something like that.
You've got they've got the analyze information and the above information is reflected or evaluated, do you reflect in each paragraph?
It depends.
To your thesis, to your introduction?
It depends on what sort of thing you do. If it's a reflective essay, you do that. If it's but that's also an explanation. You get it in your style guide. You'll have an explanation. What is a reflective essay? What is a, each essay in each document is actually explained to you and what you need to do. If it's a report, is it what you need to do. Okay. CHC's stuff is very reflective, which is quite good. I prefer the reflective part because it's also very personal. So on the reflective, they talk about you're reading the paragraph and what do you get? What impact does that have on you? And again, you're writing in third person. So reading this, the writer feels that. So right, the objection paragraphs. Objection paragraphs should include an objection statement, a topic, a sentence, and explanation. State your counter argument and a number of explanations. So with this one, you would write like, yeah, I don't agree. The writer of this work does not agree with the work of Smith, where Smith said that counseling is not a great career path. Then you say the writer, because the writer does not agree with Smith, because the writer feels by reading Hunter that Hunter is more correct by saying that. So you never say the writer feels that it is great. So in your whole thing is your counter paragraph must be someone else's quote and not your own quote.
So how would you, if you got one that said, what is your objection?
Then you can do that. So write your own reflection on this, which at the moment I've got assignments. Every week I need to submit one where I've got a document and I have to write a 300-word reflection on that. And in that reflection I have to write academic, but I also have to give my own view.
So you would put Bill?
I only do that at the end. So in the beginning it's like the normal academic, and my last paragraph will be a reflection. After reading this, I feel this and this and this, or I don't agree because personally I feel this and that. When they talk about you personally, which is you'll find that when they talk about reflect, what is your reflection or what is your view, when they do that, then that's why it's very important to read your questions. And that's why I see this one where they say to us, and that's why I'm quite strict on those. It must be less than 75 words. I want you to teach yourself, to train yourself in reading your question, because we sometimes don't read the question. If it says reflect, personal reflection is different from reflecting. Like an academic reflection is different from an academic report. So that's why it's important that you actually read your question before you actually answer your document. So read. Analyze information and linking sentence. We actually, it came up again there. So this is where your above information is reflected on, evaluated, connected back to the thesis. So your information must be connected to your thesis. Okay, so if the thesis they're talking about, it doesn't help that you go off on a tangent which does not link to your thesis. So if they ask you, give me what is the influence of chaplaincy in the modern school, or in a state school versus chaplaincy in a private school, and you do that, and then you start talking about social workers in the school. So the thesis talked about chaplaincy, and you talk about social workers. You write this amazing work on that, but it's not the question, because the question was chaplaincy, not social workers. So it's it is, you need to focus on the wording, and that's why it's important not to write more than what is said. Okay, so if they say write a 2,000 word essay on this, and you write a 3,000 word essay, normally at 2,000 words you draw a line. The lecture draws a line, and if you haven't answered the question within the first 2,000 words, it's obviously not as successful because you need to answer it in 2,000 words and not 3,000 words.
Is there any difference between the chaplaincy and guidance officer?
Yes, huge.
Yeah, no, I thought so.
So,
for example, considering we're doing this, I've just finished it, but other people that might watch it. When I had what is cognitive or what is behaviourism,
yeah.
you wouldn't need to go into big details about the person who came up with it,
No.
because they're not asking for that, right?
No. If they asked what is the history of cognitism, or
Then you would.
what is the history of, or what is the origin of, then you can go into the history. But if he talks about cognitism, it's just explain cognitism to me. So with that is like you spend, let's say you've got 1,000 words. It's useless to spend 500 of the 1,000 words explaining to me the history, because I'm not going to mark on the history because the question says cognitism. So I'm going to look at the 500 words that you wrote on cognitism, and if those words don't answer my question, it's not as successful.
So, how much of the paper must relate? All of it?
Yeah.
All of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you put still a bit in that cognitism came about?
I would put a sentence or two,
Yeah,
maybe
that's
just,
what I mean.
maybe
Just
just,
do whiles on the year.
maybe just a little paragraph, as sort of an introduction, part of your introduction, maybe, but don't focus like the whole thing on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so and the uni thing is, it's like you basically get one go and that's it. So it's not sending it back and try again. If you want to try again, you need to actually apply for a read.
Yeah, I know.
Read, and they only give that on the first one, not on the last one. So. So it's like you need to be sure, and that's why planning is very important. Planning your document is very important, and that's while you're in this, it's a good idea to actually just prepare. So start preparing yourself for this. Start preparing, writing your reflections or your research in that way, because. But don't worry. When you get to uni, they're actually going to do a special class on how to write academic anyway. But this is just preparing yourself. Okay, conclusion. Okay, so conclusion is you sort of restate your arguments. You have to have a bit of a reference to your thesis again, and then there needs to be a general statement that connects the thesis to a warning, a benefit, or a future statement. So sort of a summary, but also with a conclusion, sort of with a you summarize a bit, but you also come to the conclusion that at the end of this, the writer concludes that it is very beneficial that there's a chaplain in a private school because of the fact that. Okay, so you need to do some sort of conclusion. So after you've read all your documentation, all your and also don't be scared to use heaps of references. The more references, the better.
So you can put references like in the conclusion.
Oh yeah. I started references in my introduction. References everywhere. So with this document I've got here, I think I have had. I'll just quickly count my references. 2, 3.
Where are the references supposed to go? During the writing or at the end only?
I did 18 references in this. Okay, it's everywhere. It's
so it's within the body and it's within
in text and at the end. So in text,
at the end, and then you have a list of
So in text is a shorter version. So it's like Murray brackets year and page, and then at the end you will say Murray John the year, the life and times of John Murray, who's the publisher, and what city or what country it was published, the whole thing. So
but the only time you put the rule you can do where it lands, the wording, is if you do word for word. You have to put that there
in
next
brackets.
The brackets and the referencing next to it, right there for that one.
Same, Murray in brackets,
date,
page.
So it's the same way.
It's the same way.
It had to be the full one.
No, it's the same. The full one only comes at the bottom when you do the reference list.
Are you supposed to do one at the bottom too?
Yes, you have to do a reference list, but the reference list is the complete one with the name of the book, the name of the article, the publisher, where in text it's just the name of the writer, the date, and the page.
So Cora, with the references at the bottom, we'd be better off having a little pad and writing the references we've got for it to put back down at the
That's a good idea.
That's a good
Yeah.
idea. What I normally do is I put it at the bottom of my document already while I work at it. So as I type, I will already, like if I use Hunter 2010, I will type Hunter 2010, put the reference on the bottom. So I do this continuously because this is the most gruesome task at the end, because if you've got like 30 references and you have to start typing up all of them, where as I work and as I add a reference, I already add it to the bottom. I just make sure that it's alphabetic. So in the end, I just check that it is actually in an alphabetical order. It needs to be alphabetical. And then if you've got,
So that to me worked better if it was on the pad and I typed
yeah.
it in.
So if you've got two people, let's say you've got Hunter S 2010, Hunter S 2011, the first one would be Hunter S 2010, and the next one would be Hunter S 2011. So it's according to a time or the date.
So alphabetical would be the author's name.
The author's name. So it's alphabetical author. So it's the surname and then the initials, and then
So it's the surname first and then initials.
yeah.
You also have
We
to do
haven't,
dates.
well, I haven't been. I do the references at the bottom. I haven't been in my writing putting there.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah,
on
yeah.
a couple
No,
that asked for it, but I haven't
we
been.
are not
So,
we're not so
not
strict on
worried
that
about
at this
that?
stage with
Okay.
you guys. It's fine. It's just as long as
Interesting.
I'm just no at this stage we just if along to your reference. But I would like to prepare, especially the people that want to go to uni after this, just have an idea of how it looks like when you actually have to do a proper uni reference. So that's why I've got a style guide. You're welcome to take a style guide. Each one takes a style guide. That is that's the APA style. There's a few different styles. Some places, I think the most places use actually APA. But where I'm at the moment, I'm doing Harvard. So I'm doing a Harvard style. So for the last 4 years, I've worked with APA, and suddenly I have to do Harvard.
I've never even heard that being used here.
So yeah, so Harvard's that. There's different ones. It's medical use a different one. Law use a different style. But the general one is APA. So there's a style guide that you can use to practice with salon anyway.
And Corey, if you're not writing the whole thing out of a section of what you're reading,
Yeah.
and you change the words, do you still put preference in?
Yes. If you write the same thing the way it is, you have to put it in brackets plus the reference.
So
If you-
even if you're writing but you're changing the words in it,
Then you don't do brackets, but then
Right.
if you change the
you
words,
have to still have
say
preference.
where did you get it from?
It's all the same thing.
Okay, so but the problem is when you go to marking, if you put the words in brackets, that's the direct quotes. I'm talking from uni point of view. Those ones are normally not counted, so they don't count the words.
No.
So which is a sort of a bit of shooting yourself in the foot if you use a lot of those, because it means like you have to write a bit more than all the others.
It
So
might be counted, it might be interesting to read.
it might be interesting to read, but sometimes I have to put stuff in which I cannot change, especially with counseling. Some of our words are not, because if you can't change cognitive behavior therapy, you can't change those things. So, but you can't just put it in. So you need to bracket it because you got it from Corey and Ivy or these ones.
When you're doing the referencing, as you said, you put it all down the bottom and list it.
Yeah.
Do you put that next to where in your document that referencing is from?
No, you'll see if you put it in your document where you say Smith 2010 page 11, on the bottom you'll see Smith
Oh, so
2010.
because you're doing it the twice.
It's on the bottom, so it's all
Okay.
there. Just make sure that whatever you reference in text, it must be on the bottom. And if you put something on the bottom, it must be somewhere in text. Okay, so don't just put a list of stuff there. So that's why I say it's easier for me the moment I use someone, I actually put them on the bottom already, that I know they're
Actually,
there.
we've done a couple of times on my list.
So just make sure that you have everything there. Okay, so right, next one. Writing, you can find these in the essay, a direct quote. Okay, so you can quote direct, but that's when you do the brackets. Paraphrase, different uses of in-text citations. So in-text citations is when you use a document and then you refer to it. indirect citation. So direct uses text as John Walker said, John Walker 2010, page L11, in brackets, this is not working for me.
So that's a definite citation.
Definite citation with brackets. That's exactly how John Walker said it in the book. Or you can say, in the book of John Walker 2010, page 17, he said that this process is not working for him. So that's an indirect citation. Okay, so this is a bit of a look at how our references are done. Okay, so it's who wrote it. This is for websites, and it's accessed on that date. So on that date, I got it from the internet. All right. Interesting enough, the newest version of APA has actually left that one now out. So we don't have the access date or the downloaded date anymore. So you'll see in the new document, because this is the latest APA style I've given you, but the older version, for some of you that's already done that way, is we used to have a date when you actually read it. Yeah, so which I found like, okay, sometimes I had to cheat a bit on that date because I don't want my lecturer to find out that I did everything on the day it was supposed to be submitted. But yeah, so but this is basically how referencing looks. Understanding the essay question, first of all, it's very important when you do an essay or a research project, is understand the question. Okay, understand what it's about. Okay, don't go on a tangent about something and you don't understand the question. That's why don't just start writing. Planning is important. I normally plan. I'm normally sometimes when I have to write a big document, I take blank pages and I decided what paragraphs I'm going to do, and I write the names of each paragraph and I pack them out on my floor. Sometimes it looks like a whole war zone in my room because I have introduction and then I have part one, which is going to be, let's say, raising children, modern families, whatever. So all my paragraphs are actually packed out, and that's how I do my planning sometimes. And then I take a photo of my planning that I know this is how I want to do it. So it's always better to plan or mind map with circles and stuff before you actually write your essay. And so understand the question. If you're stuck, consult your instructor, your lecturer. Okay, it's always, or I mean, still in uni level or here or wherever you go, you have people that are there, and you can actually make an appointment and say, I know with CHC they actually have a study help. Tuesdays you can make an appointment and there's actually someone that helps you with your assignments and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, so you make an appointment with this person, and they actually can sit and help you with these stuff and help you to write your stuff and read your stuff.
That's even if you're doing it online. You book and they
you book.
Skype
You obviously can Skype or email it to them or whatever. But I get like weekly emails from when she's in the office and when she's got openings, and so I've never used her, but they're always there, and it's a free service which they provide. So, and I assume most universities have that that sort of service. Yeah. So examine the topic for your essay. So got your topic, you examine it, you read it a few times. Make sure that you know what it's about. This one I had to do was, the one I'm giving you is a critical reflective essay. So which says to you already, critical if reflective essay. So there must be a topic which I need to be a bit more critical on. So I need to study it a bit more. I have to reflect on this while I write the essay. So that's the document
so
that I.
So it's a critical essay more about seeing the differences, similarities of different people.
Yeah, and you're a bit critical. Yeah, so I did mine on gender, so I'll give it to you. You can read it. And you can also see how the in-text referencing works and how I.
So there's a lot of different essays. And
there's yeah, but in your APA style guide, you will see there'll be an explanation telling you what is what. Okay, yo.
This is probably just me, but I find I don't get time to read all the information. Is that what it's like when you go?
Yeah.
It's like that there too.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's like you're pushed and pushed. And
yeah, you need to read you need to skim read a lot.
okay.
Or sometimes what I'll do is if I write a specific topic and I want to know this section's going to go on this, I actually look at the headings of the sections. So if the section talks about, or I go to the back, where they have those little like CBT page that and that, and then I actually go to those pages and see, like, so I'd never really read the full book because I don't have.
Speed reading.
I mean, if you've got 30, if you have to have like 30 references, there's no way you can sit and read 30 books.
No, yeah.
So, and some of my references I only use one paragraph or one sentence. So you're not going to read the whole book for one sentence. So your index and at the back where they've got the words and where those, you use them.
Okay.
Okay, so, and that's where your planning helps. So if you've planned your document beforehand, it's easier to get the information because you know in that section I want to discuss this, in this section I want to discuss that. So my longest time working on an essay is normally my planning. I've done a few times when I haven't planned. I thought like I'm just going to jump into this thing and do it. In the end, that was my worst essays, the ones that I did the worst in, or halfway along the line I actually scrapped my essay and I started over again. So which I wasted a lot of time. So the best way to do an essay is do proper planning. So spend good time, dissect the question, sort of see where you're going to go with this, what you want to do, and make sure that you answer your question.
So writing up even a dot point as you're going, okay, well, I want to answer this dot point.
Yeah. They also have something which is great for uni level. They have something which they call a rubric. So they give you a rubric with your questions, so with your assignment, so which is very good. So it actually says what you need to do to get an outstanding assignment, to get a high quality, a commendable, a satisfactory, or a fail.
Oh, that's all right.
So they give you, so they say, all right, understand and critically analyze important contextual factors and influence the counseling relationship process and therapeutic outcomes. And then if you, that's what I need to do. If I've done it up to this, then this is what I'll probably get. So normally what I do is in my planning, after I write my assessment before I submit, I take my rubric and it's like, okay, have I done this? Yes, I can tick this one off. I've done that, I tick this one off. I've done that, I tick it off. So I make sure that I've covered everything in the rubric before I submit. So yeah.
Not all of them have that, because when I was at they didn't have that.
Yeah, so the rubrics are, I never submit an assessment before actually making sure that I've covered my whole rubric, because that's what the lecturer wants. And if I can do it the closest to that, I never go to the outstanding one. I always choose the commendable, and then make sure that I covered the whole commendable one. Sometimes it goes left or right, because with some sections you'll go like high, and so some sections you go lower, and then in the end all those highs and lows get together and that'll give you your final mark. So it's a bit more tricky than successful, unsuccessful. But
just weighing it up.
it's a little
scales.
It's a bit scale. Like you get 2 commendables and one satisfactory, and the other one I did the other day was I got 3 outstandings and 1 high and 1 satisfactory. It's like, so it's not a, so it moves into a different category. So right, right, prepare for it is you research your topic. You don't just go wild into it, you actually research it, you read about it, it's on your mind. Luckily we've got the internet, lots of stuff on the internet about our topics, and that's what I said earlier. The best way to get the best info is write the topic plus the word PDF, and then you'll get academic writing stuff with it. You'll be surprised how many masters and doctorate theses you'll get when you write PDF behind this stuff. Just don't go around printing them, because they're like 400 or 500 pages. So
But you can open PDFs anyway and mark them yourself, so you can just highlight as on a PDF.
You can highlight them, or if there's 1 or 2 pages that you actually need, you can actually print those pages, because you're obviously not going to use the whole document. You write your outline, what you want to do, that's part of your planning. That's why I say sometimes my outline is in paper visible format on the floor in my house, but you decide what you want to do, how you're going to do that. Planning is important. Read your rubric or question to make you figure out how many paragraphs the essay must contain or how many pages it must be. They normally don't say it must be 10 pages anymore. They normally go on word count. So they normally say it must be X amount of words. Write your thesis. A thesis in an academic essay is usually written at the end of the introduction. It is a statement you intend to prove of the rest of your essay. For example, you can use a certain action by a literary character as ground that he or she is insane, or expand upon it. Like, let's say you can use a statement by Freud, where you say that Freud lost his mind, and you can write the whole thing about Freud, whether he lost his mind or not, according to you, by making use of all sorts of references to prove that point or disprove that point. So it's a bit of that's interesting.
So what's the difference between an essay and a report?
It's like
heaps.
It's like heaps. A report is like a report, like you report on it.
Oh, okay.
So you report. There's a different format.
Yeah.
There's a different style you write it. An essay is again a different style, and then a reflective essay is again a different sort of essay. So, but everything's explained in your style guide anyway, so you will know which is which. But it's important also that you read your question to know that what must I write? Must I write a report? Must I write a reflection? Must I write an essay?
Yeah.
So, because it will count against you if it's supposed to be a report and you write an essay.
The dot points come into essay writing.
No. Essay writing.
Not in essay, so what's the dot points really used to?
Normally in reports and stuff like that, you can use it in them, but in an essay it's words.
It's words, yeah.
Words, paragraphs. Okay. Write a first draft, you write a draft.
Yeah.
Get someone that's quite knowledgeable of language and ask them to read it for you. Read it, word check it, check your wording, check your spelling, check your concord, the I's, the we's, the shells, some of the silly mistakes people make for there and there, you know. So just make sure that all those things are actually covered, and so try not to read your work yourself. Give it to someone else that can read it. All right. If you're lucky enough, like I am, that is married to an English teacher, it really helps because they read it properly and tell me quickly, this is total nonsense, do it over again. But yeah, it is beneficial to have a good check on your language and on your wording and concord and stuff like that. Divide your thoughts into paragraphs, as I said earlier. Try and follow a pattern of claim followed by evidence. So this is what I say, this is the evidence for it. You know, so claim, evidence. Don't just make wild statements, but give evidence why you make those statements. I think Freud is crazy. Okay, show me where is Freud crazy? Okay, it's your thought, but you need to prove that thought. Okay, so you must claim and there must be evidence. Write a second draft. Use transitional phrase. A transitional phrase eases the reader from one paragraph to the next. Okay, that's what I said earlier. There must be a link. Okay, your paragraphs has to be linked. So there's got to be some sort of link between your paragraphs. Edit the draft again. Finalize the essay. Write your final draft. These steps. Do not mess with the font or margins and make your paper look longer. Most teachers and professors are actually will deduct points for attempts to make the paper look longer. Okay, just stick to the defaults. In fact, strangely, smaller text looks more substantial than larger text. So normally they will say in your style, not style guide, normally in your student guide, which you get before for every unit, they will say normally Times Roman and 14. That's normally what it must be in.
But I don't see it on
14
it.
So Times Roman normally 14, and that's it. And don't go for squiggles and all sorts of fancy stuff.
Just do what's
Just do the normal stuff and keep to the normal stuff. Right? If you find yourself using the same words over and over again, use a thesaurus. Okay, don't use the same word. Don't start it by Johnson states that. The next sentence you start, you say Mary Jacobs states that. Okay, so you can then the next statement can be according to Mary Jacobs, this and this and this and this happened, and then you can also say that April Stevens claims that, or April Stevens is of the opinion that. So you need to keep on. In each sentence, it's really weird if your sentences are all the same. They start the same. Johnson states, Mary states, Smith states. So it's like you need to write academic, and you need to like think different words. But make sure that if you use a thesaurus, it actually makes sense in your sentence. Okay, use proper English. For example, two is not a word. It is a symbol denoting a quantity of two. So you have
so
to.
you don't write the word two.
You have to.
Write the number.
You write the word, not the number.
You write the word.
You write the word. So if it happened 2,000 years ago, don't write 2,000. It's the words 2,000. Yeah. So you write 2,000.
So no shortcuts.
Tips: manage your time. Okay, that's very important. There's deadlines, especially on uni. There's a specific deadline. There's no. If you can't make your deadline about 2 or 3 days beforehand, you need to apply for extension with great reasons why. Normally a doctor's note or some sort of note, and the extension is normally for like 2 or 3 days later. So it's
a certain amount of year.
It's so it's just so it's you can't decide like, oh, I'm not going to make it. And also it works on every day that you're late, they deduct 10% of your mark. So if you're 10 days late, then you failed it.
Yeah.
No, actually, if you are 6 days late, then you're in 40%, then you fail it. So because they deduct 10% per day what you're late. Okay, so don't make your essay a research project. Okay, essay is an essay. A common mistake means to do, but you will frustrate your teacher or lecturer to no end. A paragraph is not just 3 sentences. Paragraphs should be at least 6 sentences, and don't make your paragraphs too long. Okay, so don't make write like the whole page and that's one paragraph.
Oh,
right?
okay, yeah.
Okay.
6 sentences could be pretty long.
It's pretty long, yeah. It's pretty long, yeah.
It's a pretty long paragraph.
It's paragraph, yeah, but it's not like these little. So, but even a 3-sentence paragraph can work, 3 or more, but not.
I suppose it depends on how many words.
It depends. It depends also on yeah. It all depends on the wording too, and also yeah. We are not the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul only never used paragraphs in all his works. He only started with a capital in the corner on the start of the page and ended with a full stop at the end of the page.
Really?
Yes,
So
that's
it
why.
was just blah, 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 blah,
That's
blah,
why his work is the most difficult to transcribe. So that's why when they actually dig up documents, they know which ones is his, because his is the most difficult to transcribe. So because of the fact that he was such an intelligent person. So okay, the warnings: do not plagiarize. Okay, they are very search. Hey.
Isn't plagiarism? Even if you take something,
Yeah.
right, and you're changing different words and everything, isn't that still plagiarism?
Not if you quote.
Not
The
if you
source.
quote.
Or
if
if
you say
Don't quote.
if you say who wrote it. So if
Right.
you use the words and you change them around, but you still put in reference where you got it from.
The
Yeah.
page and
Right.
Yeah. So you need to.
A certain number of words that have to be changed too.
It depends, but normally very important. Mix it around, quote it, James, but you need to say who wrote it.
I just thought that
Okay.
yeah, there had to be a certain
So where you got it from originally, that's very important. Okay, so because you got it from somewhere, so there's no such thing as, and that's one thing that I get a lot is students will say to me, got it from my head. You're right, you didn't get it from your head, you got it from somewhere. That original thought you have, it came from somewhere. You heard it somewhere, it needs to come from somewhere, you need to reference it from somewhere. Unless you wrote a book, quote your book.
Yeah, but like I'll answer something and sometimes it is from my head.
But you got it somewhere. It got.
It's your words in your head.
Yeah, then you need to search on the internet or somewhere for someone that has that sort of quote that you can quote.
But what if you
What if it's from life experience though?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
Does the question say reflect on your own life experience?
No, but if you...
Then no.
Okay, alright. I get ya. Righto.
It needs to come from somewhere.
Okay.
But if
Okay.
you're doing a, like, in community service,
Somebody will.
when you did your,
Yeah, true.
what is it, your 100 hours? And you had to reflect.
That's reflect.
That's different.
So,
That was reflect on your
but they were
community.
trying to cut me down in words.
Yeah, because you had to have a certain amount of words.
Yeah, but to explain what actually happened in some of the scenarios,
Yeah,
they
because
wouldn't have understood it.
but you still have to keep to the question, and the question says so much words, so you have to keep to the words.
I've just got an example with the girls. I came to you once, I had one that I'd already written similar through somewhere else. And I asked can I use paragraphs out of this? And they were my words, but as he said, yeah, you can use those words, but you still have to write the organisation I'd gone to prior as a
Because
referencing.
that belongs to someone. Like this document that I have here, I wrote this document.
But it belongs to you.
I handed in this document. If I take this document and I hand it into another subject at the same uni, this is plagiarism. Because it's my document, but once I've handed it in, it belongs to the uni. It's their document.
That means that everything that you're writing
Belongs to them.
no.
Crap.
No. Everything that you're writing
Yeah.
is because it says your readers expect the writing to be your own.
Yeah.
Well, you're reading and you're gaining information and you're saying that we have to acknowledge where we got it from.
Yeah.
But then it's saying the readers expect the writing to be your own. I don't get it.
Yeah, so you're writing your own words.
Oh,
but you
your
don't-
own word.
You're writing your own words, but you always have to quote. Okay, you always have to quote someone or somewhere.
And even when I handed the one in that I wanted, I still would have got it from somewhere else.
The joy of studying at a Christian university for me was I could quote the Bible. So it's like, but I also always had to quote, like I put the Bible in my reference list, Bible, New King James Version. I would say Matthew, like the normal
But the
scripture.
normal would be the Bible.
No, I would say,
Who's it by?
you say the Bible, the date it was
But wouldn't you have
published.
to put what particular brand of Bible it
Yeah.
was?
New International Version, published by whoever, whatever. So you'll see, I
So
think
curious, been the Bible, yeah.
it is in my reference list anyway, the one that I've got there for you. So yeah, okay, it's a bit of how to plan, your topic and your different sections, your different paragraphs, fill out what you do, and then maybe your introduction on that side, your conclusion. So they're separate from your whole planning. So in your planning, you do whatever you need to do to cover your topic.
Yeah.
This is your introduction, which I said is separate, and your conclusion separate. So that's just a bit of an explanation.
The conclusion is that basically going over everything you've written and just writing the conclusion.
No, it's like sort of a summary,
Summing up.
but also a conclusion. So if it's a question that you're covering, so the conclusion, in the conclusion, this author or the author of this document comes to the conclusion that James.
So the main key points comes in
Yeah,
the conclusion.
yeah. So you have to give sort of a conclusion.
So
But
we just did behaviourism. In conclusion,
Yeah.
behaviourism is
Yeah.
actually this sort of therapy as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, and that's enjoy writing.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was a
So,
good help, thank you.
so I have for you, what you can look at is there's a style guide.
Yep.
You get an idea what a style guide looked like. There is my critical reflective essay on gender.
I
Well,
bet
that'll
she's
be
interested
good.
anyway.
Can I pick it to pieces?
Yeah, I don't want to hear a word of it.
Don't give one to Marie.
Pass this across.
Or his